It began as a class project for two 14-year-old girls, and what it turned into is an insightful documentary on rape culture.
The media does a lot of pieces too where they make men seem uncontrollable, as if they can't control their sexual urges, as if that whole boys will be boys kind of conversation. That happened in Stephenville, that happened in Penn State, that happened in Ottawa, that happened with the rape chants that came out.
Tessa Hill and Leah Valente are the teens responsible for the film Allegedly, an effort that snowballed into a petition and a meeting with Ontario's Premier. The ladies join us in studio this morning. It's so wonderful to meet you. And I want to start with the title of this, Allegedly, and what that word means, because there was a real focus put on the media and our usage of it. Leah, I want to start with you.
So we titled our film Allegedly. It actually took us quite a while to come up with the title because we wanted to really focus on not so much the issue, but what media sources and what people and what individuals can do to change it. So a huge part of what we're trying to teach other people is to use the right words when talking about rape cases and topics, sensitive topics for a lot of people like sexual assault. And something that came up in a lot of our interviews during filming our documentary was the word allegedly and its overuse in the media, as if the people that are coming forward with their rape cases aren't believed, and they have to say allegedly because it's like they aren't believing the survivors, and it can often silence them, which is a part of rape culture.
And you know, it's a really good point, Tessa, that Leah makes and that you make in the film. Oftentimes the word allegedly in the media is used for legal reasons, but it's where it's placed. And one of your interviewees makes an excellent point that a police report in the Steubenville high school case, for example, a police report is out, certain facts are out, so there's nothing alleged anymore. Charges are laid, and yet still she was allegedly raped.
Exactly. Using the word, it kind of undermines the credibility of the survivor. And when, like you said, there's a police report out and there are certain facts that are out, sometimes using the word allegedly, it's just not needed, and it just kind of perpetuates rape culture.
Why did you choose to focus in on consent?
So the topic of consent is really important when talking about rape culture, because one of the things we talk about is creating a consent culture. So a consent culture is a culture of consent. It can be a culture where all the sex that is had is consensual, but it can also be a culture just of mutual respect for each other, of asking for permission, of just, like I said, respect. So consent kind of goes hand in hand. Consent culture goes hand in hand with rape culture. It's kind of the opposite. So we tried to focus on the topic of creating a consent culture. So what can we do in our society through things like changing the curriculum and having more of these conversations to try to end the rape culture and to try to shift into a consent culture.
Yeah, Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne got in touch after hearing an interview you did, and that is now part of the curriculum. You guys have been hand in hand working with her, working with the ministry to get that done.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's been, like, when we had the interview, it was really awesome. She totally understood what we wanted in it, what we were talking about, and that she wanted it to change for a really long time. But obviously there is opposition from a lot of people. But really, the topic of consent, there isn't anything to oppose about consent, because consent is mandatory, and it's also just a part of having healthy relationships. And so it's just so important that it needs to be part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you work on something, Leah, things surprise you. You find things that you didn't set out to find. And that was the case in this documentary, because you both said, listen, we are white young women, we consider ourselves privileged, but what came out of some of those interviews was that is not the experience for other women. You talked about, you know, some black women in particular, Latina women in particular, and how they're overly sexualized, is how one of your interviews put it, in the media and other places.
Yeah, so during our interviews, when we started learning about it, we didn't know a whole lot about rape culture. It just kind of like popped up as an issue that we both wanted to learn about. But in our interviews, we learned a lot about the issues of intersectionality and how the different layers of people's identity and their skin color and their background can affect how rape culture affects them. And as you were saying, how they're hypersexualized in the media is often used to kind of dismiss their rape claims. And that's a huge part of rape culture, and that's also what we're working to stop. Even though we are both white and privileged, it's important to us to address issues that other women face too, and may have it worse for them.
It is such a powerful documentary, but Tessa, if there's one thing, there's so many things, but if there's one thing that you want people to take away from this, what is it?
I mean, that's really hard. I think the one thing I want people to take away from it is maybe not one thing, but just to kind of have a better understanding of rape culture. And I think one of the things that's really important for me is, as we just mentioned, the different experiences that people have. So a lot of the time, sometimes when we try to speak on things, and we try all the time when we speak on issues like this, we try to speak only from our experience and try to not speak over communities. And that's just really important for men and women to be allies to other people. So to acknowledge that they may have privilege and that they experience these issues differently, and just because they have one experience doesn't mean that that experience is the same for everyone else.
So well said. What a pleasure to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
Tessa,
So nice to meet
Leah.
you.
You will find a link to Allegedly on our website, canadaam.ctvnews.ca.